The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Market Fantasy. Get up to 1K and deposit match for Market Fantasy with promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Friday night, July 11th, around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso Reichel, once again, going solo for this pod. Time to get into the breakdown of the women's final in the Wimbledon, taking place on Saturday. Going to break down the match between Swiatek and Anisimova. For that, though, a brief recap of the semis for the women's side. And before we even do that, a reminder, they can help support the show by like, subscribing on YouTube, and a reminder to also leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. So podcast available different ways. You have the video format on YouTube, the live stream, of course, on YouTube and Twitter. And also, you can check out the podcast audio only on Spotify or Apple. But no matter how you consume the podcast, don't forget to leave a rating and review, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Plus, a reminder, check the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great merch for tennis. We have shirts, t-shirts, mugs, sweatshirts, etc. So check it out. A lot of stuff to recommend there. Plus, a reminder, check out the actual app for SGPN for all of the free podcast access. Also, a reminder, we have the SGPN feeds on Spotify and Apple. So check that out as well. A bunch of different ways to get the podcast for the network, and all of it is completely free. So, for the recap of the last episode, we're going to save that actually for the men's final preview taking place tomorrow. So we're going to save the Lock and Dog recap for that. For the women's side, though, doing a recap what happened in the semis, you had one straightforward matchup, really straightforward matchup, and the other was full of drama, and you had an upset. So Swiatek was able to beat Bencic, destroyed her, a 6-2, 6-0. It was a bloodbath. Nothing else really add there. Swiatek, we were waiting for the bakery to open up again, and it opened up again for Swiatek as she won 6-0 in the second set. Nice run by Bencic. We'll get the job done in that two-set tiebreak situation there against Andreeva. Nice job by her making a deep run, but Swiatek has been too good. She's dropped one set the entire event, and she was able to win very easily in a short amount of time, as she ended up winning in an hour and 11 minutes. So Swiatek got basically a bye into the final. We'll see how she does in her first ever Wimbledon final, but point is she's been playing great tennis, and we'll see how she looks. If she looks at nearly as good as she did against Bencic, she'll win this matchup, just straightforward. But Anisimova was the surprising finalist because she was able to upset Sabalenka as she ended up winning in 3. It looked like she was going to coast in the third set there. She was up 4-1 in the third set. Then it got interesting. It was 5-2. Then she actually served for the match, had a match point, got broken. But luckily, Sabalenka immediately went down to low 40 in her service game, and Anisimova broke in her third breakpoint chance as she hit a nice winner. So nice job by her. At the end of the day, Sabalenka is kind of a weird player to think about because she's number one in the world. She's won multiple Grand Slam titles before, and yet I still think she's a choker, which is kind of a paradox, but it really feels like Sabalenka fumbles so many golden opportunities to win more Grand Slam titles. And yes, she does have a couple of them already. And yes, she has been a great player for a while. And yet, I have no faith in her to ever win Grand Slams. It's why I kind of avoid taking her in a bunch of Grand Slams. Even though my picks were wrong for Wimbledon, I didn't have Swiatek or Anisimova. I did not pick Sabalenka. I picked her to win the quarter. That was it. I have no faith in her to actually win Grand Slams despite having a couple under her belt, mainly because of that. We see the unforced error count can get pretty high. We do see that, once again, she has the tendency to kind of implode in big matches like we saw in the final of the French Open against Goff as well. I just don't really trust Sabalenka the way that I should trust the number one player in the world. And we kind of saw that happen again in the semis, as Anisimova not only took an early lead, won the first set, but also dominated the majority of that third set. And Sabalenka fumbled away breakpoint after breakpoint, and it felt like she eventually was going to hit unforced error if you just kept the ball in play, and that happened a decent amount in the semifinal matchup against Anisimova. But either way, nice job by the underdog, the American, to make it into the final. Do want to briefly touch upon, by the way, the quarter picks that we actually had. Not any good. Full disclosure, but we did get Sabalenka at plus 115. So there we go. But anyway, point is not a good outright tournament for us for the women's side. Men's side, very good. We won everything on the men's side. But for the women's side, once again, we have one somewhat expected person here in the final. Even that being said, not really expected because Swiatek's had no grass success at all in her entire career, and I didn't take her to win the quarter. But Swiatek, who's been really bad for the last couple of months, was really able to piece together a phenomenal grass event, very drama-free up to this point, dropped one set, then dominated the other two sets in the one match she actually did not win in straight sets. But Swiatek making the final of Wimbledon was kind of surprising based on her form for the last couple of months and her entire career form on grass. And Anisimova was in good form in general, but piecing together a great Grand Slam run is not something that was a foregone conclusion for Anisimova, and she's been very good, beating Sabalenka in the process. See Wipeout mentioning that he actually took the outright for Anisimova at 40-1, and Sabalenka he actually doubled down on. I didn't do an episode for the semis because I was not available in terms of recording, but I would have actually taken the games for Anisimova. I just thought it was too many games at 4.5, but I do think she's a good player. She, of course, took a bit of a leave of absence there with some mental health issues. Nice to see her back, and she's playing good tennis. Made the French Open final, I believe, a couple of years ago. Very solid player, but it's one thing to predict the, I'd say, up-and-comer to look sharp in the event, and it's another thing to pick her to make the final while beating Sabalenka in the process. But nice job by her. She's had a pretty impressive season so far. And Swiatek, after losing to Sabalenka 6-0 in the final set of the French Open, came out with a purpose and has been dominant so far in the event. So either way, a point should be a pretty interesting final between Swiatek and Anisimova. Whoever wins, it will be the first ever Wimbledon title. It'll be Anisimova's first ever Grand Slam title, but first ever grass title for Swiatek. Not even just Wimbledon, but ever in her entire career. So we'll see if that happens, but either way, should be a pretty entertaining matchup on paper, and we'll see how it shapes out. But either way, looking at the other, I'd say, piece of drama worth talking about, Sabalenka making more, I'd say, news bulletins with her press conference post-match, and she seemed to be a bit annoyed that Anisimova didn't apologize for a net court winner. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, it's very difficult to actually like listening to Sabalenka post-matches when she loses. She is an unbearable sore loser. I understand that she's entertaining with her personality, she has jokes, etc. She had some comments about Goff after the French Open lost. Honestly, I agree with her comments. She could have phrased it better, but I do think that the argument against Goff was, I could have played better. She didn't really beat me. I beat myself, and I feel like that was on full display in that match against Goff. I understand that one. But she got mad at Anisimova for not apologizing for a net court winner. Get over yourself. You're the number one player in the world. Like, you should not be down 5-2 in the third set against Anisimova if you're going to be playing up to your usual standard. Sabalenka, look, she's entertaining. I understand that her sense of humor is definitely present when things are going well. But when she's losing, she is really, really annoying to listen to. And hearing her complain about Anisimova showing bad sportsmanship while you're the loudest grunter on the entire tour, who really is just painful to listen to. Sometimes I'll actually mute her matches. It's arguably worse than Sharapova's grunting. It is a mess for Sabalenka. So when you're going to grunt like that for 2 hours and then get mad at your opponent for not apologizing to you for a net court winner, I feel no sympathy for you, and I'm happy you lost, simply put. So, once again, that's the only thing I have to really talk about for that. There were more quotes from Sabalenka, who seems to just find ways to be extremely irritable when she loses, which, don't get me wrong, if you lose as a competitive athlete, I can understand you being upset. But all the comments about the Anisimova bad sportsmanship, I don't care. You're the loudest grunter in the entire tour. You're one of the, in my opinion, the least sportsman-like players, especially when you lose, because you're calling out your opponents for really not doing anything to beat you, and you're going to kind of rain on Anisimova's parade by calling out her sportsmanship. Yeah, I'm happy that Sabalenka lost. I don't find her that likable, personally. Maybe it's just based on the way she acts and conducts herself when she loses. But yeah, I thought the comments by Sabalenka were kind of Bush League, and I feel like, once again, she should do better in bigger matches instead of blaming the opposition for bad sportsmanship or just blaming yourself all the time. How about you play better? and you actually beat the, I'd say, Cinderella story in the event. So there you go. But wanted to mention that I do think that the Sabalenka sense of humor is there, but the comments post-match, she needs to work on those. I'll put it that way. But getting mad at Anisimova for showing sportsmanship issues when a net court winner happens, conceptually, I tweeted it. I think the idea of apologizing for a net court is insanely dumb anyway. If your goal is to win, and we know the net court comes and goes, like sometimes it'll be in your favor, sometimes it won't, you shouldn't have to pretend to apologize to be, I'd say, to feel sad for your opponent. You don't care. I feel like this was a conversation that happened a lot in high school because we played a lot of ping pong. Same story, net court goes over, you win a point in ping pong. We invented the expression, sorry, not sorry. That's how it goes. Sorry, not sorry. Because you're going to pretend to apologize, but you're really happy you won the point, and you don't feel any sympathy at all. But you have to pretend that you feel sympathy to be a good sportsman. I think it's insanely dumb. Like, I would do the hand gesture apology, but of course Anisimova was thrilled that she's 1 point closer to beating Sabalenka when the net court goes in her favor. I think it's an insanely dumb and empty gesture. Look, we know you want to see him like a good sportsman. In reality, if the net court helps you out, you feel pretty good inside, and you're not going to feel bad for your opponent. It is what it is, but anyway, I wanted to mention that as a brief detour. But Sabalenka ended up losing again as a massive favorite, and I'm not surprised. So we have Anisimova taking on Swiatek in the final, taking place on Saturday. Before we get into the actual breakdown of the final, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Circa Million Circuit Survivor, because they're still hosting the football contest. If you think you know ball, you can enter it. $21 million guaranteed prizes, and of course, there's no rake. If the entries go above the guarantee, they'll add the extra money to the prize pool. Circa Million pick 5 teams ATS each week to go in a competition for, or you could always do the Circa Survivor, which is the ultimate sweat. There's also an extreme Circa Survivor contest, the Circa Verdissimo, a $100K entry fee for a Circa contest. But when you sign up in person at Circa Sportsbook, you have to, by the way, sign up in Vegas, play from anywhere with the help of SGPN's official proxy. Go to footballcontest.com, use code SGP to get $50 off your proxy fees. We're also brought to you by MyBookie.ag, because you can use it for baseball, for tennis, for WNBA, for golf, any sport you can think of. You could also use it in crypto for fast payouts, easy deposits. Sign up though for an account, use the code SGPN to get a nice 100% odds match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the women's semis. Time to move on into the final between Anisimova and Swiatek. Check out the comment section, by the way. I see Leonard stopping by. I see Wipeout stopping by. Trying to see some other guys here. I see Van stopping by. I see Uneducated stopping by. And there you go. I see Jonathan mentioning WNBA stats. So, yeah, apparently Jordan Cannon had 26 points in the first half, which is pretty crazy. But either way, I see Van mentioning that Swiatek played 4 elite ball strikers back to back and destroyed them. And there you go. Yeah, I was going to get into that for the actual breakdown of the matchup. I'll do right now. See Manzi stopping by. What's up, Manzi? Nice to see you again. For the actual matchup, Swiatek's a favorite. No surprise, minus 245. For Anisimova, plus 203. For the spread, minus 3.5 for Swiatek, minus 115. And the plus 3.5 for Anisimova is minus 105. For the over-under in games, 21.5. Set spread, Swiatek in straight sets, plus 105. Anisimova to win a set is minus 135. The over 2.5 sets is a plus 143. Now, no head-to-head history between them, so can't even use that as a reference point. But for the path itself, Anisimova's been very good. We saw her look pretty sharp in Berlin before this. Did lose to Samsonova, but she showed that she has the prowess on grass, and they carried over into this event. So she did not drop a set for the first 2 matches against Putintseva. She actually didn't drop a game, 1-6-0, 6-0, and beat Zarazua in straight sets. Dropped a set to Golfi, dropped a set to Noskova, and beat once again the quarterfinal match she won the quarterfinal match in straight sets, then ended up beating Sabalenka in 3. Makes sense why she dropped a set there, number 1 player in the world, but still did drop a set to Golfi and to Noskova. So been a bit of balance between straightforward wins and controversy, and even the straight set win against Pavlyuchenkova was not easy. She fought off multiple set points in that second set. So she could have dropped a set in 4 straight. So keep that in mind. Now for Swiatek, it has been Really easy rolling for her. She's dropped one set in the entire event, dropped a set to McNally, then won the next two sets comfortably, but she ended up beating Kudermetova in straight sets, beat Collins in straight sets, beat Towson in straight sets, beat Samsonova in straight sets, and beat Bencic in straight sets, only dropping 2 games in the entire process. So Swiatek, based on eye test, has been the better player so far in the event. Now, Van mentioning that Swiatek's faced off against good ball strikers so far, and she's been rolling. Not wrong. Collins can be dangerous, so can Towson. Samsonova, I said before, beat Anisimova in Berlin on grass before Wimbledon, and Bencic is a good player as well. Bit older, and you could argue fatigue played a factor, but Swiatek blew her off the court. Nothing else to add there. So for the actual match itself, we've seen Americans do well in the event and in the year so far, with Keys winning a Grand Slam title in the Australian Open. We saw Goff win the French Open, and now you have another American, a different one, in the final of Wimbledon. So maybe the American medley can continue, and maybe Anisimova wins. Do I think she's going to? Personally, no. I think that Swiatek is a worthy favorite. I think she's the better player. I've said this many times before, but I'll say it again. If you took all the women's players active on tour, and you told me that they were playing at their best possible form, peak form of every women's player, I would rank Swiatek number 1. I think she's the best player in the world when she's in good headspace and when she's in good form. Now, that's been an issue for her for the last couple of months, and we saw in the French Open, for example, she lost 6-0 in the final set to Sabalenka. But still, I think when Swiatek is on, I think she's number 1 in the world. And maybe that's why I'm a bit lower on Sabalenka, because even though Sabalenka is a very solid player, I still think when they're both in peak form, Swiatek is better than Sabalenka, in my opinion. So I do think that Swiatek, based on her form so far in this event, will be very tough to beat. Now, I do agree with Van, saying that Anisimova's in a great headspace. Her friends and family are there. That was the main issue she had in the past. She had some mental issues. She got that sorted out and has a good support system around her now. Having said that, I do think Sabalenka's unforced errors definitely helped out Anisimova win the match. And on top of that, you saw Sabalenka punt away a bunch of breakpoint chances. I believe in that matchup, Sabalenka went 3 for 14 in breakpoint chances. So there were opportunities for Sabalenka to get the job done, and she didn't do it. I thought the Sabalenka failed a bunch of key chances to get back into the match onward. And the one time she did, breaking back into the match, she got broken to lose the match the next game. So I do think Sabalenka's, I'd say, shot selection can be problematic, and I do think Anisimova exploited that to win that semifinal matchup. For Swiatek, the power's been good, the consistency has been good, the serve's quietly been better, and I do think that if you can take Swiatek's recent, I'd say, surge in overall firepower and blend it with the consistency, it's going to be tough for Anisimova to beat her, in my opinion. I think that Swiatek is a worthy favorite. I do think that Swiatek should be arguably a bigger favorite in this matchup. If she was minus 300, I would not be surprised. I think that she is definitely playing her best tennis she's played in a long time. And I do think, even though, historically speaking, she's never won a grass title, it does feel like she's starting to find familiarity with the actual court. And it does seem like she's ramped up the firepower and the aggression, which has helped out a lot. She's bullying people, good baseliners, around the court. And I do think that Anisimova might be up against it for this matchup. But I do think you're looking at a spot where Swiatek should be favored, I think even more than she actually is. I think that I'll go with the actual, once again, spread for this one. I think 3.5 is a decent number. You could argue that maybe Anisimova wins a set. Even if that does happen, Swiatek can break out the bakery again, win a set 6-1, and suddenly, by dropping a set, you're actually in decent shape to cover the spread. I'll go with that. I think Anisimova did a great job making it to the final, and I agree with Van that her overall recent mental headspace is definitely impressive. However, based on the eye test and what I've seen watching these players, Swiatek has been the best player here by a mile, and she has been for the last couple rounds. And a 6-2, 6-0 win in the semis is the cherry on top there. I'm going to go with Swiatek here in straight sets. I think she wins. I think she wins her first ever Wimbledon title. And I think that I don't want to say reign of Iga, but I think that I'd say, expected form of Iga is back. And I think Iga might be a dangerous candidate to win the U.S. Open as well moving forward. I see Van mentioning that Kyrgios did a podcast today with British media, and the fact is he's saying that the backhand for Anisimova is definitely elite. Not wrong. I think you are definitely right that the backhand for Anisimova is a very solid equalizer because a lot of women's players on tours have a weak backhand and she does not. But I do think with the Anisimova serve, there will be chances for Swiatek to break her. I believe that Anisimova has been broken 3+ times in 4 straight matches. So I think that Swiatek will be on the front foot early. I think that nerves can play a factor for Anisimova. I do think that Swiatek will go up early, will take the first set, and at that point, I think that the overall front-running nature of Swiatek will be too much for Anisimova to handle. I think that Swiatek will get out early and run with it, and I got to earn straight sets for this one. I do think that Anisimova is a good player. I think Swiatek in form is a great player, and that's the difference for me. Now, Anisimova, if she ends up playing this well moving forward, maybe she could find herself in that great category because she took a layoff, and she's made a couple. This is her second Grand Slam final, so clearly she's worthy of being a top 10 player in the world. Iga, though, when she's in form, I think is numero uno. I think she's the best player in the world when she's in good form. And right now, unfortunately for every other person on tour, she's in great form. Give me Iga in this one. I think there's a tier gap personally. I think that Iga is the better player here by a decent margin, and I think she'll show it in the final on Saturday. Give me Iga to get the job done here in the final. To wrap it up, though, for the preview of the final of the Wimbledon for the women's side, time to move on into the Lock and Dog picks. Before we get into the Lock and Dog, reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor on Fantasy because they're doing Best Ball Mania, happening all summer long. Give only $15 million in prizes, including $2 million for first place. No waiver wire, no arguments about trades. Best Ball is the best way to play fantasy football. And a reminder, they also have underdog entries if you want to do some pick 'em. But when you sign up for your new account, use code SGPN to get a special pick and a first time visit offer up to $1K in bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm because they have Power Trends, a game-changing feature where they give you the best of what the house model has to offer at the patterns, and they've been incredible so far this year in both baseball and WNBA. For MLB, win rate of 63%, ROI of 4.5% in their past 400 bets. WNBA, though, has been incredible. 35-20 so far this season. 63+% win rate and a 20.7% ROI. They've been going crazy for WNBA. And I've been tailing their plays. They've been really good. A reminder, get download the app, check out Power Trends, start betting smarter. And a reminder, you can also try it for free for a week. But instead of your trial, go to sportsgambling.com/rhythm to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the women's final in Wimbledon. Time to move on into the Lock and Dog picks. For the lock, I know I kind of went through the match pretty quickly because I see it being a one-sided affair personally. Give me Iga minus the 3.5 games here at minus 115. She's been incredible. She's won 10 straight sets. She's been dominant against good players. We read them off before. Collins could be dangerous on grass with her overall firepower. Bencic made a great run beating, once again, Andreeva in the quarters. She destroyed her, only dropping 2 games. Samsonova can be very good on grass as well. Townsend's got firepower, and Iga ran through them like a hot knife through butter. I think Iga's going to roll again, personally. I do think that Anisimova, who's been broken at least 3 times in 4 straight matches, the serve can be problematic. And Sabalenka did have 14 breakpoint chances, only converted 3 of them. But I do think Anisimova's serve might let her down multiple times per set, and I see Iga jumping on it as being one of the best returners on the entire tour. Also worth mentioning, nerves can play a factor. You could argue it might not, because she was able to beat Sabalenka in her first semifinal in a while, but it is her first ever final in a Grand Slam. Could argue that nerves might play a factor, but simply put, Iga's been too good. She's won 10 straight sets, and Anisimova's serve has been vulnerable so far in the event. Iga, though, we know does not have a great serve, but she's been defending it quite well in the event. And I do think that Swiatek will have more breakpoint chances than Anisimova in this matchup, which can result in a lopsided set or two. Give me Iga, minus the 3.5 games, though minus 115 is my lock. I think the price is too good to pass up on. For the dog, I'm going to double down on Iga. Give me Iga straight sets at plus 105. Swiatek's been playing her best tennis for a long time. Said before, Iga, when in form, I think is number 1 on the entire tour. I think she's very, very good, and we're seeing that now, obviously, on grass. She's changed up her game. She's more aggressive on grass. The ground stroke consistency, though, and the overall purity in the striking is so noticeable. She hits such a pure ball that I think that she'll be able to, once again, kind of push Anisimova around the court, pick her spots, be aggressive, and I do think that she'll be able to hold her serve more easily than Anisimova in this matchup. But she's won 10 straight sets. She's been rolling. I'll back that angle again. Give me Swiatek in straight sets as my dog at plus 105. So once again, no offense to Anisimova, but I'm going to fade her in this matchup against Swiatek on Saturday. For the lock, give me Swiatek minus 3.5 games, minus 115. For the dog, give me Swiatek straight sets at plus 105. It's going to wrap it up for the show. We're back once again for the men's final on, once again, Sunday. We'll do the episode tomorrow. So after the women's final, we'll record the men's final, and we'll also recap the lock and dog for those 2 episodes. Anyway, till next time, I'm on Twitter Radio. Checking out the comment section here. I see Adrian stopping by. Nice to see you too. I see Anthony stopping by. I see Sashi stopping by as well. Yeah, Iga does look absolutely crazy right now. I can't go against her based on current form. I'll take her in the spot. But anyway, we'll be back once again tomorrow to get into the men's final between Alcaraz and Sinner. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.